Louis Leonard Bradbury Sr. was born in 1823, and died in 1892. Originally from Bangor, Maine, moved to El Rosario, Sinaloa, Mexico, in the early 1860s. He amassed an incredible fortune in the Tahoe silver mines. He married Simona Martinez, who was a Mexican national in Mazatlan, around 1867. But later, moved his family to California. Around 1883, Bradbury acquired El Rancho, Azusa de Duarte, in Southern California, which is now part of the present-day cities of Duarte and Bradbury, in Los Angeles County, California. A highly successful 19th-century American businessman, he built his wealth in Mexico's mining industry, and by acquiring California real estate. Upon his death in 1892, he left a sizable fortune to his wife Simona Martinez, and to their 6 children. According to the present-day family members' scrapbook, this fortune was valued at $15 million in 1892, or approximately $100 million in 1990. Simona Martinez Bradbury was born in 1845, and died in 1902. The Mexican wife of Louis Bradbury was known as the Cinderella of El Rosario, because she came from a very humble family, and worked as a maid in Bradbury's house, prior to their marriage. An article in the Los Angeles Times later described Simona as the vivacious daughter of a leading Spanish family in Mazatlan. The announcement of her death, in the Los Angeles Times, December 12, 1902, notes that Louis Bradbury had named her as executor and trustee of his affairs. Simona managed the family's business affairs for 10 years, following her husband's death in 1892. The Los Angeles Times article called her a sterling and able businesswoman, noting the development of both her understanding of business practices and the English language. Their children were Simonita Bradbury, 1868 to 1939; Rosario Bradbury, 1870 to 1911; John Bradbury, 1872 to 1913; Minerva, Minnie Bradbury, 1874 to 1919; Louisa Bradbury, 1876 to 1957; Louis Bradbury Jr., 1881 to 1948. In 1890, the Bradbury family traveled to Europe for 4 months. While Louis Bradbury attended to business matters, his wife and children toured several countries, traveling in high style. First-class accommodations, private cooks and maids, and individually tailored clothing were all part of daily life for the Bradbury family at this time. Arriving in Mexico around 1862, Louis Leonard Bradbury began to accumulate barras, or shares, of El Tahoe mines. By 1873, he had acquired control as the majority shareholder, substantially increasing his wealth in the process. Bradbury was one of several highly successful foreign investors in 19th and 20th century in Mexico. Bradbury's success in Mexico's mining industry afforded his family a luxurious lifestyle during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The family maintained several properties and homes, distributed between northern and southern California, in addition to several mines in Mexico. During Mexico's colonial period, Spanish mine owners formed the Real Cuerpo de Minería, or Royal Mining Company. This guild established the Ordenanzas de Minería, a series of codes and ordinances providing privileges and benefits to the guild's members in all matters related to the mining industry. These ordenanzas protected the rights of Spanish landowners above the rights of the colonized citizens of Mexico. The impact of foreign investments and ownership of Mexico's land and natural resources played an important part in the country's social and political revolutions. In 1879, Louis Bradbury transferred the majority of the Tahoe mine's stock to his wife, Simona. The reasons why Louis Leonard sold half of the shares are not completely clear. The sale agreement states a sale price of 30,000 pesos, roughly $2,750 today. One theory is that Bradbury believed it was inopportune for an American to hold majority interest in a Mexican company at that time, and temporarily transferred his majority shares to his wife, a Mexican national, for security reasons.
(1890) June 25th. In a little church, across the way from Santa Maria in Rome, we saw the pillar our Lord was scourged. Ladies are not allowed into the chapel, had to see it through a window. John and Romilly went inside. If any woman goes inside the door, she will be excommunicated. June 26th. Got up quite early, to be able to arrange our black dresses, and Montejas to go to the Vatican, to see the Pope. Went to the ceremony in the Sixtine Chapel, where the cardinals were made by the Pope. The poor Pope looks so old. He could hardly raise his hand to give the blessing. They carried him in on a throne. The procession was magnificent, with all the different officers, guards, and ecclesiastics, dressed in their respective costumes. Mr. Yama got the permission paper for us to go. They are very hard to get. Got back to the hotel just in time to pack up, and at 3 o'clock, left Rome for Florence. Mr. Yama went to the depot with us. Mama has told him to order 4 statues in Carrara marble. 1898 January 3rd. Mama is getting ready to go to Mexico with Louis. I asked her what she would give me if I went in her place. She seemed delighted, for she does not want to go. I told her I would think about it and let her know. January 15th. Left Los Angeles this morning at 11:45. Mama, Minnie, Louisa, Louis, Tiny and Mr. Polk were down to the train to see us off. I felt awful leaving my 3 babies. I don't think I will ever do it again. Poor Jim felt so bad, for he does not know when he will see them again. Baby boy was asleep when he left. I cried after the train pulled out of the depot for a good hour. January 24th. We arrived in Mazatlán this morning. John went out to place to meet Mama, as he thought, and was very much surprised to see me. March 14th. I went this morning to see Judge Bicknell. Had another long talk. We talked about the will and some other things. Had a long talk with the girls and Mama about what Judge Bicknell said to me about Papa. April 5th. Minnie is going to be sick very soon from all reports. We are all waiting for further news from the newcomer. I would not be surprised if the baby arrived tonight.
Here, some facts during that period. Bradbury's 1876 journal records a revolt led by Porfirio Diaz that challenged Mexico's then president, Sebastián Lerdo de Tejeda. This revolt essentially paved the way for the Porfiriato, the 35-year presidency of Porfirio Diaz, who was finally forced into exile in 1911. February 20, 1876. A pronunciation in Oaxaca, January 10, favors Porfirio Diaz. War pronounced at Lagos, with 400 men. General Arce returns to the port. All down on President Lerdo. June 1876. Revolution seems coming nearer. Taking volunteers here. The Porfiriato encouraged investors from foreign countries to develop economic ties with Mexico. Many Mexican citizens, however, became disillusioned with Díaz's policies, particularly because land ownership and control of natural resources mostly resided with foreigners, creating an unequal distribution of wealth. In this journal, 1887 to 1899, written by Bertrand Lee, a manager at the mines, provides a glimpse of the day-to-day operations at Minas del Tahoe. Mining is an inherently dangerous occupation. The perils of the job, noted in this journal, are of particular interest, with blame for accidents and death normally placed on the employee. Although full of mundane details, such as seasonal weather reports, and the arrivals or departures of various employees, this private journal also includes dramatic accounts of theft, assault, flash floods, employee inebriation, accidents and amputations, smallpox and gangrene, and lockjaw. 1893, October 31st. One of the men who drive the ore cars to the mill, named Secundino Núñez, died this afternoon from lockjaw. On Monday, October 30th, very early in the morning, he attempted to jump to his seat on the ore car, at the time he was starting from the quebradera. He slipped, and the wheel of car passed over his foot and leg, causing complicated and dangerous wounds. Dr. Haas attended to the case, with his usual ability, but from the first he had fears regarding the case, and eventually, Mr. Núñez succumbed to the gangrene and lockjaw that set in. He was buried by the next day. Property titles, parcel maps, mining claims, and real estate documents, like these, provided evidence of ownership history and rights associated with a particular piece of property. They also served as proof of purchase and functioned as legal agreements. During the Porfiriato, President Díaz welcomed foreign investors to Mexico and encouraged foreign investments in its natural resources. These documents, signed by President Porfirio Díaz between 1897 and 1909, shortly before his 1911 exile, certify the purchase or ownership of various parcels of the Capala mines in Sinaloa, Mexico. These parcels were ultimately purchased by the Bradbury Estate Company in 1927 to 1928. According to the family's records, the mining activities of the Bradbury family brought electricity to the town of El Rosario. The gas and electrical power plant began operating in 1912, replacing an older steam plant. Louis Bradbury Jr. assumed control of the family business in 1902, and the Bradbury Estate Company was incorporated in 1904. Later, the business and mining success of the Bradbury Estate Company declined and the company was dissolved in 1965. The Bradbury family's days of being mining barons are over. But their legacy remains, providing an interesting glimpse of one family's experience in Mexico and California.